You are now listening to About That Business, hosted by Rom Wills. Rom Wills is an entrepreneur and personal coach who has helped people reach their fullest potential personally and professionally. Take it away, Rom.
Welcome to the Sunday morning simulcast with Rom Wills. The lives you touch. I'm going to tell a story. I remember there was a woman I worked with. She was a modest woman. She didn't have an education beyond a high school degree or a high school diploma. She was short of stature. But I remember, and she was very quiet, soft-spoken. But I remember a story she told me. She was telling me about her son. Now, she said the principal of her son's school had wanted to reach out to her. And she was like concerned. She said, oh, man, I hope he didn't get in trouble. And the principal wanted to reach out to her because of how well her son was doing. Now, it turns out all her children were doing well. Now, she was married. Her husband had a very modest job himself. And and I just thought about it. I was like, you have this short-statured, very quiet, plain woman, but just the impact that she'll have just on her children, who they'll have an impact on, because she was telling me what her sons and daughters were doing. And, I haven't talked to this woman in well over 25 years, but her sons and daughters were on a path to becoming attorneys, doctors, professionals, people who will touch other people's lives. Now, I share that story. I mean, we do get into who got what degree and how much money you have. But in my view, a powerful person is the person who can touch other people's lives in a positive way. It might be the groundskeeper, like in Star Trek: The Next Generation. And that's fiction, but that was a great example. They talked about someone at Starfleet Academy who was a groundskeeper but had an impact on people, advised people. It's like, yeah, that's powerful. A person doing a humble job, but just because of saying the right thing to a person or being supportive of them. And I've seen people like that. I mean, we have people like that in neighborhoods. We have, like, if you go in some poor neighborhoods, you can go in some poor, crime-infested neighborhoods, and there's that one person that nobody mess with, everybody respect. You could have like hardcore murderers, gang members in this neighborhood. They basically terrorizing their own place. But then there's that one woman. There's that one older, it might be an elder. Nobody's messing with her. Nobody's touching her. In fact, if somebody were to mess with outside the neighborhood, those same murderers, gangbangers, and stuff, they would go. They'll hunt that person down. Everybody would lace up, and you meet people like that. I remember when I was coming up in my neighborhood, there was one young lady everybody knew in the neighborhood. Very, very physically attractive, very quiet. Very beautiful, very quiet, but nobody disrespected her. Nobody disrespected her in a sexual way. Nobody said anything out of the way to her. Even though she had the, looks and body build and sex appeal to do that, but just how she carried herself, everybody respected her. And I remember very, very humble living. And I remember one time, I saw her in downtown D.C. And I remember I was coming from some meeting. I was agitated as hell. My mom was agitated. And I remember she just saw it. I said, hey, how you doing? And I probably had a mean look. Man, she just grabbed my hand, just held it. Didn't say anything, just held it. Just looked at me. And I was like, and I was just talking. I was like, she just let me say what I was going to say, kind of complaining, venting. She just said it. And then after a while, I was like real calm. And people like that are beautiful. People are like that. And I don't mean in a physical way. People like those that I've mentioned, real life, fiction, they are powerful in the sense of their spirit can bring healing to another person, or they can make it better. They're the type who they just come. I mean, I've seen this so many times. I've seen powerful men show respect to them, especially if they're women. But sometimes if it's a dude, it might be that dude, just quiet dude on the corner or something, or they're very humble, but everybody's listening to him. Now I remember one dude like that. He transitioned a while ago, and he had a humble job. He worked in this book stand in downtown DC, and he was just an employee there, but the impact he had on people, like, he had attorneys. This is in the downtown part of K Street area where you have a lot of law firms. You had attorneys who would bow to his wisdom. They would listen to him. They would come seek his advice on something. And he's given me a lot of advice. And you think about him, he had a humble life, really. You look at him. He didn't have a high school education, but I actually got more financial advice. And I always remember the lessons he taught me. I always remember it really impacted. It's like, I don't like really discussing specific religious paths. So please forgive me if this offends you in any way, but this doesn't mean no disrespect. You can substitute terms, but God has his angels in different places, and it's not always where you think they should be. It's not the man or the woman on the pulpit, or the priest or priestess, or whatever term you want to use. It's not always that person. It might be the person, it might be that man or woman in the poor neighborhood who's keeping people straight, or it might be the one to whisper in that gang leader's ears, like, dude, you got to change it. You a leader. Instead of out here running some drugs, killing your people, you could be doing a community center or something. It could be a person in a prison who, they made their mistakes, but that person getting in there, and they might be the ones that, like, keep people safe and send the kids back out to do something. It could be that mother in the neighborhood who, have her own kids, but take in some of the other kids who might not have that parent or that guidance. It could be anything. It could be, God will have his angels wherever they're needed. And I call this the lives you touch, because you could be one of those people. A lot of people feel like, well, I don't have this degree, or I don't have this standing, but yet you have something in your heart that can reach out to somebody and just say, give a kind word, or do something, like make you feel something. And I see people like this all the time. It's humble, and it's like they're in humble positions. But people love them because of the impact they have. Because of the impact that they have, that they reach out, that they say something. Or sometimes it might be, sometimes it could be that old dude who, like, just snatches you up. Now, a story I've told before, when I learned how to ride a bike. Now, and I always remember this. Now, I remember when I was younger, it was me and my mother and sister. We lived in it was, I know it now to be like a mother-in-law suite, but it was like a little spot we lived in. It was next to this bigger house. It was owned by a contractor. And, I didn't have the father figure at the time. And I remember I was trying to learn how to teach myself how to ride a bike. I took those training wheels off, and, independent Rom, I was just trying to figure it out. Fell a few times. I remember the owner of the house, this contractor, came out. He walked out. He was going someplace. He had to be going to church or something. I don't remember what it was exactly. But I remember Mr. Green, Mr. Green, may his soul always rest in peace. I remember this dude had on those white, how those old school guys did. Had that double-breasted suit on, nice shoes, everything, shine sharp. I remember he saw me out there in the street trying to ride that bike. My man came out there. He came out in full suit, shoes, picked me up, actually grabbed me by the neck and said, "Pedal, boy, pedal." That dude had in a full sprint in a suit. He said, "Pedal, pedal," got me riding the bike. I always remember that. Then he went on to whatever he had to do. you know. And I'm not sure how he felt about it, but that was a powerful thing. This man just took his time out, and you got people like that. You're one of those people. You never know. Don't downplay what you do. You don't know what example that you're setting for a person. You don't know what you might say. You might just say hi to a person. It might be what they needed to hear that day to keep them from like killing themselves. You know, smile, whatever, or some advice that you gave them. You never know. And that's a powerful thing. They always understand that, you know, when we get into so many things, but people here to touch each other's lives. We can't help it. Just try to do it in a positive way. So that's all I have for today. Peace and blessings. Keep rising and transforming. Peace.